Hello, and welcome to the Financial Services Innovation Coalition's video podcast. My name is Brady Buckner, and I'm the president of the Financial Services Innovation Coalition, or FSIC, or FSIC, because that's a really long name. FSIC is an economic empowerment platform that conducts research, runs program workshops in low-income communities, and helps educate them on how to advocate for better access to the modern economy. FSIC is a network of industry innovators, legislators, community groups, and academics who share a passion for applying emerging technologies and market innovation to create a more inclusive economy and advocate for policies that promote economic empowerment. Today, I'm very happy to say our guest is Martin Mason. Martin is a business owner. He owns a trucking company, and he is a community activist, which is a little bit newer to him. Martin has been a great friend to FSIC for quite some time. But I want to get right into it. You can tell us a little bit more about yourself, Martin, but you know, you started the New Jersey Policy Initiative a few years ago, correct? Can you tell us how this came about?
Sure. Actually, we started the New Jersey Policy Initiative. Brady, we had our first meeting in February of this year. So it hasn't even been a full year yet, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah, but I've known FSIC and your founding partner, Kevin Kimball, for longer. And the way that came about is um, we decided, my cousin and I, it's her trucking company. She brought me on 3 or 4 years ago after COVID. She had a tremendous trucking company, 10 or 12 trucks, doing really well. COVID hit. She had to downsize. She did everything she could to stay in business. She wound up with one truck and a desire to rebuild. And she asked me to come on board and help her out. Um, it, and that's what I did. I came on as a business development manager and partner in the trucking company. And one of the first things I did was I had her get designated as a minority woman business enterprise. I said, this will bring us, I promised her, this will bring us opportunity. And
That's a designation from the government that gets you, it's like you're pre-qualified to bid for government contracts. Is
exactly,
that right?
exactly.
Okay.
Yes, it's certified. It's under the big scope of disadvantaged business enterprise, and then you have veterans and women and blacks, and um, so so that's what we did, thinking it would give us some advantage, and we had a choice to make after we got designated. We could go after we go for a cannabis contract. Cannabis became legal in New Jersey. We could get a distributor's license where we would truck the product from the grower to the manufacturer, from the manufacturer to the stores. And that's the contract that we wanted, or that's the designation that we wanted within this whole New Jersey cannabis industry. So we started to do that, and we were met with some difficulties that we just couldn't understand. And I was talking to a good friend of mine one day and telling him about all the problems we were having negotiating this cannabis stuff. And
These are issues with the governing body, the state,
that's
correct?
right. That's right. What had happened is they said there was going to be a limited number of licenses. They were first going to go to minority businesses, designated minority businesses. That's why we got the designation. And previously incarcerated on the charge of marijuana, a limited number of licenses would be available, and almost 50% of those licenses would go to these people who had gotten this designation. So we had some leverage. And in cannabis, it was a little bit different because it's state legalized, but not federally. So if you want to get involved in the business, there's certain things that you have to take into consideration, such as banking, such as if you're storing this product, can you get a landlord who's willing to take the risk? Because at any time, the federal government could come in and say, hey, this is illegal and shut you down, take his property. So there's a lot of hurdles to overcome to be involved in this. But what happened is because there were a limited number of licenses, we had a lot of people contact us who wanted to partner with us, who had already solved these things. In fact, we had a town in New Jersey, the town attorney called us and said, our mayor wants a cannabis in our town. and we would like to have our own license, but the odds aren't good for us. Not as good as they are for you because you're a minority and you're a woman. So we would like to partner with you in all these problems we already have solved. We have a place for you to go. We have banking. We'll take care of all of that,
Wow.
right? So that was one of many people who had contacted us. Well, to make a long story short, when we got to the end, when it was about the time to award licenses, there was a change. The governing body made a change, and the change was everybody gets a license. So nobody needed us anymore. Our leverage was gone. And we had some time, money, effort into this, getting this license, preparing ourselves, meeting all of the criteria. And in the last minute, it was pulled. So we were livid. And along the way, I was speaking to a friend who used to work as on the Hill in Washington, D.C., was a chief of staff for a government official. And he had a friend who did the same thing. And he said he knows something about cannabis on a national level. Maybe you should speak to him. And that was Kevin Kimball. So that's how I got introduced to Kevin Kimball and FSIC. So along the way, Kevin guided me. He was a shoulder for me to lean on, gave me information. And that was the extent of it. We became friends through this whole thing. And then I turned my focus to government contracting. And again, I'm just
Let me ask you this.
sure.
How many times did Kevin tell you what you didn't want to hear? Because he's famous for that.
One of the first things he said was, "Man, maybe you don't want to get this designation." I said, "Why not?" He said, "He said it's like a target on your back, wouldn't you say?" He said, "If they don't want to do business with you because you're African American or a minority, now you're going to put a flag on your back saying I'm a minority. What do you think, Martin?" He didn't. But anyway,
Yeah, he's famous for that.
yeah.
So,
So
but
so
he's usually right.
he's
So
usually right.
anyway, sorry to interrupt. Go
That's
ahead, bro.
okay. So I turned to government contract, and again, Keevan's a friend. I'm not involved with FSIC in any way. I'm just talk to Keevan and become a friend. So he says, "What are you doing now?" I says, "We're going into government contract." And he said, "Oh, okay, it's good. What are you thinking?" And I said, "Oh, they have these big contracts. They're building this tunnel, and from New York to New Jersey, the biggest project in the country. They've got the JFK Airport's building another, Newark Airport's building another. All this stuff's going billions and billions of dollars of contracts right here in my backyard." I said, "So that's what we're going after." He says, "Oh, great." About 3 days later, he calls me up and he says, "Martin, did you read the New Jersey disparity study?" And I said, "No, I haven't." He said, "Well, I emailed it to you. Read it and call me back." So I read it. It crushed my world.
Yeah, that was shocking. We've been in this business of trying to make things non-discriminatory when it comes to delivering contracts and awarding contracts. And what we've run into over and over and over and over again is you just can't believe it, that the African Americans in particular, let's just talk about that group. They're 13% of the country, right? Soon to be 14.
Yep.
And in almost every case, they were getting less than 1% of the contracts, even though there were plenty of contracts available. So sorry if I'm stealing your thunder.
No, no, no. That's
But
fine.
we were
That's
just
fine.
so when you came around and were willing to take on this issue at the state level, we were just delighted. And so,
Well, what drove me to do that actually was not the numbers, believe it or not. So I found out here in New Jersey that 10% of the eligible businesses, qualified, eligible businesses for government
these are
contract.
African American business owners that
This
were,
These are African American business owners, African Americans specifically, I'm talking about.
and they were qualified to do the
Qualified,
work for these
10%,
contracts.
10% qualified,
So they
right?
couldn't say, well, we couldn't find anybody, which
No,
in the
they're
case.
there on the books,
Okay.
qualified, ready to go. Of the 10%, even though we made up 10% of the eligible businesses, we got 0.14% of the contracts.
Well, that's
0.
$14 for every $1,000 of contracts.
Thereabout.
It's like that's like
Thereabout.
it was a mistake. It sounds like a mistake that somebody got anything at all.
You know what? And I know who got it, and I don't mean this in a disparaging way at all. But if it came to cleaning up the site or cleaning up the bathrooms, then that's probably where that 0.14% got. But you certainly weren't going to be doing any of the real work that made the real money or made you a real viable business in another sense. Not
Right.
that janitorial services aren't viable. That it's really viable, right? It's a great business. My mother was in it.
But
So,
this is your business. You know,
right.
the
The
trucking
trucking
industry.
industry is my business, right? So there wasn't a shot I'd ever get any of these contracts. So, but here's what made me mad. I've been black since the day I was born, and I understand that I'm at a disadvantage because of that. I understand I start 3 steps behind the starting line. I get that. I've been doing that all my life, so I could deal with that, right? But what hurt me the most here was that I was led down this path, which I was never going to win by the federal government by saying they had this program, by saying they had set asides, by saying 20% of the business had to go to minorities or whatever percentage they were saying had to go to blacks. So that's what I'm going after. That's what I'm listening to. But I'm being led astray. I'm being sent down the wrong road on purpose. That was hard to take. But what was even harder to take, Brady, was that people knew about it. Some institutional black organizations knew about it, but didn't tell anybody about it. No one's tell. If someone had told me, Martin, you got 0.14% chance of doing some business over here, I'd say, hey, that's not a road I'm going down. If I was a gambler and I was going to sit at the gambling table and they said your odds here are 0.14%, no gambler would gamble. It wouldn't happen.
And just to be clear, the study was conducted by the state. This is not some, you know, progressive or minority represented group that
No,
might be considered
no. This is
biased. This is
this
the
is
state.
this is the state. This is the governor of New Jersey's study.
Okay.
It's their study, right? No minority group study. No outside group study, no,
Okay.
advocate group study. No, this is the state itself telling its own true story. Black people and minorities in general equal 25% of the eligible businesses and collectively got 3% of the contracts. That's minorities as a whole.
That's all
Blacks, that's
businesses.
all businesses. All minority businesses together equal 25% of the eligible businesses and got 3% of the contracts.
Wow.
African Americans, 10% got 0.14.
Okay. So this is the not the thing. I mean, this is a long process that you've gone through. And I think that you met up with Kevin and said, I've got contacts. I need to do something about this.
Well, no, it's the other way around, actually. So I'm all upset. I called Kevin back and I'm all upset and I'm pounding the table and I just can't believe this. And he's letting me rant and just go off. And then he says to me in a calm voice, well, Martin, let me ask you something. I said, what's that, Kevin? He said, what are you going to do about it? And I stopped in my tracks and I said, wow, what am I going to do about it? I said, I don't know what I'm going to do about it, Kevin, but let me let me think about it. Next time I talk to you, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do about it. So I thought about it. And I said, wow, there's got to be other people that feel the same way I do, or people that don't have the information yet. And when they get it, they'll feel the same way that I do. So I looked up a list. The government, it's public information. If you got these certifications, DBE, Women Minority Business Enterprise designation, it's public. So I
Okay.
looked it up, and there were 4,000 registered businesses who had this designation. 4,000. So I called up Kevin and I said, know what I'm going to do about it? I'm going to reach out to all these people because it's got to be someone that feels exactly the same way I do. And Kevin said, that's great. So I said, I'm going to write him an email and tell him everything that's on my mind. He said, yeah, you might not want to do that, Martin. He said, because people won't read all that email. He said, why don't you do it maybe 4 or 5 emails, a little bit at a time. And so that's what I did, and that's how I got started. I wrote that list of 4,000. The first question was, hey, did you know? First email simply said to 4,000 registered businesses, hey, did you know about this New Jersey disparity study? If not, here it is, and here's what it says, right? And I let that sit for a week. And then I sent them a second email, and I said, hey, did you know that on a federal level, the numbers are very similar. African Americans get 0.5% of government contracts. Still less than a half of 1%, 0.5 on a federal level. So this is systemic. This isn't just New Jersey.
Yeah.
This isn't just states. This is the entire country.
Yeah, and you never hear about this. This is one of those things that I was somewhat impressed by the state of New Jersey for putting out the study, for doing the study, number one, and then putting out the real numbers as opposed to going, yeah, we're not going to put this out or something. So a lot of states won't do that study because they don't want people to know how bad it is. I
I,
mean,
I think
the
I think
people
we
of those states, the African Americans, the Hispanics, the non-whites are tax-paying people. They are business owners.
yes.
They're community leaders. They do all these things, and yet they're not getting their fair share. And if somebody says, well, life isn't fair, get a helmet, I say, yeah, said everybody who ever had the advantage. So it isn't fair. And it's nice that we're hearing about this, especially considering the day and age we're in. And the fact that you did something about it has been just miraculous to us. Most people
Brady.
don't have the energy or that they just are beaten, you know?
Brady, it's like this. If you are thrown in the middle of the ocean and you are drowning, then what you will do is tread water. And that's all I'm doing, treading water.
I have not heard that one. That is really good.
It's what the deeper we got into so I do this. I talk to these people. I know about this, and then I found some other information out as I went along, and as I talked to Keevan, and as I was brought up to speed with what was really going on in the country, in the state of New Jersey, which is the focus. State of New Jersey, another study. Again, this is a governmental study, not some outside entity. Government study said that pre-COVID, the median family net worth for white families in New Jersey pre-COVID was $355,000. Median family net worth for whites, $355,000
Okay.
pre-COVID. For blacks and Hispanics, less than 20,000. 355,000 family net worth versus 20,000 net worth for blacks and Hispanics. But then they did a post-COVID study. In the post-COVID number, they found that the median, and right now to this day, the median family net worth for white families in the state of New Jersey is $655,000. Their net worth doubled, $655,000. For blacks and Hispanics, it's $14,000. It's gone down. So black people, black families, and Hispanic families in the state of New Jersey have a net worth of $14,000.
It
That's
sounds
not,
like if they had a car that's paid off, a newer car that's paid off, that would be it because that is not home value.
I
Where
have a
most
car.
of people's net worth comes from is the equity that they have in their home.
One of my cars is paid off. It's a 2018 Volkswagen Tiguan, and it's worth around $13,000. So the median family in New Jersey, black family in New Jersey, is worth a 2018 Volkswagen Tiguan.
And in some cases, it could be the value of a 401k or something like that. It's not that
Yeah, it's home
folks have
ownership.
this money sitting in a bank.
No, no, not at
Some
all.
do, but not many.
No, but right. So, when we looked at that income disparity and, from that you can extrapolate, right? You can figure out, so if you have a net worth of $655,000, you can probably go to a restaurant, probably buy a car, probably send your kid to a decent school
Go on vacation.
with
Yeah.
new clothes, go on vacation, right? You can keep the maintenance of your house, keep your lawn cut, the house painted, right? All that good stuff, right? And at $20,000 or less, there's not a whole lot you can do at all. So when I put this all together, and then I'm thinking, I said, the key to business success and the major businesses, Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos with Amazon, it's government contracts that launch their business. It's government contracts that are at the nuclear of their business. They're allowed to expand and dream and do other things because they have these major government contracts. So if you want to build a strong business and have a legacy business that you're going to pass on to your kids, you need government contracts. The biggest spender in the world is the US government in all things.
Yeah.
Buying food, buying toilet paper, painting, construction, you name it, they buy it.
And you think they'd spread that around and have safeguards in place so that the usual suspects weren't getting all the contracts, but it's actually the opposite of that. In fact, I wrote an article and it was talking about the robber barons, and it's very hard to find an example where they weren't either in business with the government or actually didn't get big loans or grants from the government. All of them, JP
All of
Morgan,
them,
all of
from
these bankers,
the
all of the
big,
people
the steel magnates,
the
all
railroad
along,
tycoons.
technology, all along the way. It's all government contracts, right? That launch people into the stratosphere in a business sense, right? I look at it a little differently. I look at it this way. I look at it at the historical arc of blacks in this country, right? From slavery to Jim Crow, right? To reconciliation, to um, to you know, blacks only water fountains and all that stuff,
Sure.
right? Segregation. And I think about it and I say, so when you were a sharecropper, we've gone from slavery to being sharecroppers, right? Where you're working somebody else's land. You work, you make some money, but you're basically paying them back your money, right? So where we've come to this day and age in 2025 is, like you said, well, here I'll use New Jersey as an example. 45% of the population's minority. So in theory, 45% of the tax base are minorities. In theory, 13% of the tax base are African Americans. So you work, you pay your taxes get taken by the government, go into things like government contracts. In theory, they should be hiring you back, right, for your tax dollars, and your tax dollars should go back into your community, right? You make money, you send your kids to school, you buy groceries, you buy food in your community. That's what should be happening. But what's
That's
happening
the
is,
idea of capitalism is
correct,
not no so much the government, but that the money gets spent and it grows because of the money multiplier, and you want it to be in your communities. And
that's
there's a
right,
lot of reasons, there's a lot of laws to stop companies from coming, or used to be coming into communities, taking their money and then siphoning it out. Now
correct,
that happens all the time now, but
right.
the intent was not for that. Capitalism is all about money, swirling around and creating opportunities for everyone and growing.
Correct. So in my mind, then blacks are, and I keep using African Americans because I tell people in my organization I lead with African Americans because it's the least of us, right? The other Hispanics and Asians, we got like 1% or 1.2% of the contracts. We got 0.14. So I lead with African Americans because it's the least of us, and traditionally, everything that comes from for all minorities comes from African Americans' efforts, right? So we've been through this, we've done this, we're the least, right? So we're the edge of the point of the sword, right? So I use this blacks, but so we pay taxes, we work, we pay taxes. Those taxes go to a construction project. All of the construction companies are white. They make the money, goes back to their communities. They keep their houses clean. They have new cars or whatever. They're living a good life, and we're left with nothing. So how different are we from when we were sharecroppers or slaves? We're still working, making money, and a piece of that money is going to serve somebody else, not us. That's the reality, right?
Yeah.
From the big picture reality, your tax dollars are going to serve somebody else in their community, in their kids, in their future, and not yours. So you're working in a percentage of what you work for. Yes, when you were slaves, 100% of what you worked for went to somebody else. Now, 30% of what you work for, or 20%, whatever the tax numbers are, go to somebody else and you don't get it. It doesn't come back to help you or yours. So anyway, Brady,
Yeah.
all of this went on, and I wrote to these people, and I started the New Jersey Policy Initiative, and I didn't know what I was doing. Um, Kevin told me, well, the first thing you want to do. I mean, every step of the way, Kevin had to tell me, what should I do next? And eventually, I got on my own, which was recently, and I understand how I need this policy initiative in New Jersey to work for me and for New Jersey people, right? I understand how to do certain things. Now I still run everything by Kevin, but But he said, so call a meeting, and so we called our first meeting um, in February. Some people came out on a snowy day. We had about 20, 25 small businesses came out to talk
Which,
about.
which isn't bad
Yeah, Keelan
for
said it
your
was
first meeting, because getting people to come to a policy and government contract meeting is not sexy.
right, not, and it was a snowy day as well, and it was in
Oh my God.
inner city. It was in Newark, New Jersey, which is difficult for people to get
That's
to. And
right. Newark was the
yeah,
first one. Yeah.
so we had it, and we've had a lot of tremendous things happen since then. And we're called the New Jersey Policy Initiative because we think it's all about policy. Policy drives politics. Policy is either in place that hurt you or help you, right? So if there's policy out there that you don't like, you need to come up with some policy to replace it. If there's something that should be done and there's no policy for it, then you need to write some of that too. So one of the first things Keegan did was he said, Martin, we believe that this renewal of the Trump tax bill is going to go through. We believe it's a lock. So fighting it is not a smart thing to do in terms of what the FSIC think tank feels, right? He said, so we've come up with a bill proposal to put alongside it. Hey, if you're going to do all that for you and your people, at least do a little bit for us. And it was a great bill called the 25 tax bill or whatever it's called. Um, and he said, so we'd like to try to get this proposal to Congress. And the way we do that is we ask Congress people to sign on. Right now, we have one person signed on who initiated this bill. She was out of Florida. He said, why don't you write your 10 Congress people and ask them to sign this bill? And so I said, I can just write them and ask them. He said, you can just write them and ask them. So I wrote them, sent them the bill, and asked them to sign onto it. Said the New Jersey Policy Initiative backs this bill. We think you should too. We want you to sign it. And LaMonica MacGyver from the 10th District in New Jersey, the one who got arrested with Ross Baraka when they were going to just check on the facility that they were housing these immigrants they were locking up in. She got arrested at that time. But anyway, she signed it. She was the second person to sign it, and the third person signed it, and now it's in Congress. HR 2927 is the bill. It's up to become a bill. So we did that. We reached out to people in the that were running for the governor's race. We got some feedback from the mayor of Jersey City who was running. We asked him a couple of serious questions. One was, did you know about the New Jersey disparity study? If so, when did you know about it, and what do you propose to do about it? And the second question we asked him was, did you know about the income gap or the financial gap?
The
Uh,
income and wealth, more importantly, the wealth.
Thank you. The wealth gap here in the state of New Jersey. If so, why does it exist and what do you plan to do about it? We asked all of those that were running for, it was the gubernatorial primaries. We asked them all that question. I think there's about 7 or 8 of them. And this gentleman, Fulop from Mayor of Jersey City, wrote us back and answered the question. And he answered it in such an eloquent fashion. If I read it to you, you'd fall out of your seat. He just clearly explained what it is, why it is, and what he'd do about it. So since then, we've been pushing there's now 2 people in the race, a Democrat and Mikey Sherrill, and then the Jack Citarelli is the Republican nominee. We're writing them. They're not talking back to us, which is interesting, but we're pushing on them, and we don't feel we're going to have anyone in the governor's position, whether it's Democrat or Republican, that cares 2 clicks about us. Because if they won't write back to us now when they need us,
Mm-hmm.
then there's no hope for us with them. So we have to learn to fight them. I don't care who gets in office. Really, it's going to be a fight either way. Mikey Sherrill, the Democrats,
Right.
done nothing more for us than Jack Citarelli, the Republican. Won't even speak to us.
Can I want to step back. The bill you're talking about is a bill that, we did the research on and helped with some of the language. And it took a lot to get any Democrat to even think about signing on. And finally, Sheila McCormick out of Florida understood what we were trying to do after a lot of effort. You know what we found during that process? This was called the All-American Tax Reform
Correct.
Bill. And it was
2025.
about tax cuts for the middle class
Yep.
specifically,
Correct.
um, which would help everybody. And we found out, and to the best of our knowledge, that the Democrats had not introduced a tax cut for the middle class in over 40 years. And so the fact that it was so hard for them to understand, and they had nothing to lose, they were never going to stop the big bill from going through, but yet they wouldn't even it was like pulling teeth to get people to sign on to this. And there was nobody going to lose from this. You know, it was going to pay for itself. But anyway, I'm getting flustered because I just can't believe that the ones that are supposed to represent the working people had not done really anything for them at that level. They've done other things that help people marginally, and I won't go into that's another show. But so we really need people like you that aren't just and I don't mean to be disparaging, out there just shouting their disdain and marching and saying, "Oh, we're mad about this." You actually said, "We're mad about this," or we're not going to let this stand." And you started calling the people that could do something about it.
Correct.
So that's why, we value you so much as an organization, is because you're actually out there doing something on your own dime. There's
That's
no
for sure.
funding for this kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And you're out there saying, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I have the ability to, I have the wherewithal, I have the energy. And so, we love you for that. And
Thank
so
you.
I'm sorry for interrupting. Go ahead and
No, and I'll be honest about that. Financially, yeah. I mean, we funded everything. A meeting in Newark, it was at a nice restaurant, and we bought the food and the time, and all of these different things. Kevin came up on his dime, on your dime, for to meet with us that day, and so yeah, that's a big thing. But the time, when I'm here back here in my office working on stuff, and my wife, who recently retired, is there, wants me to watch television with her, and I'm just buried under here doing work. Yeah, money's super important, and I know it's a big thing with people donating and all that, but I could just use some help, period. I could use somebody to type an email, send some emails or make some phone calls.
right.
Just anything would help. But no, you're completely, when you do this, if anyone out there decides to do this, you're going to be by yourself for a while. But the first time somebody starts, and I'm starting to get a lot now because we're doing a lot more, but I'm getting people who are just thanking me to no end for doing what I'm doing, and it's you know it's rewarding. So
That's by and large will be the payout that you get. I know we're not looking for a payout, but we do things for a reason. We want to see a result. I'd like to shift gears just a
sure,
little bit, if you don't mind.
yeah,
You know, the thing that happens a lot is people are so used to getting nothing, and they're so used to their voice not mattering because there's too much money in politics. What would you say to them? Why should they get involved as opposed to no, nothing ever matters? That's why I'm not getting involved. Why should they get involved? And what would you say to them to get them to say, do something? You don't have to give up your life. You don't have to spend all your money for this, but you need to do something and become some kind of a community leader and support us, if nothing else. So to speak about that a little bit.
well, I would say the first thing I would say to people is this, is that the most valuable thing you have, if they stripped you naked and took everything that you own from you, you still have value. And that value is your citizenship and your right to vote. When you think about these billionaires who are running things and determining what our future is going to be, they're putting all this money into this. Why are they putting the money into it? What's happening to the money? The money is going to buy votes. So, so yeah, we could do battle against the billionaire. They don't have any more influence than we do in this American system. If you come together and vote if you come together, if I send when I send a letter, the more signatures I have on it, the more weight it has when it meets that politician who works for us.
Right.
They work for us. And that's what Kevin has drilled into my head. And that's what I've become to understand. And that's why I really do what I do. And that's why I do it with force. Because they work for me and you. They work for us. And we need to tell them what to do. Don't ask them what to do. Don't wait on them to do something. That's not how it goes, right? The way it goes, if you can do one of two things. You can be like cattle and just go along, or you can be a leader. You can do something about it. You can guide your own future. You can determine what happens. You can literally determine what happens in your future by stepping up and saying, I'm here, I exist, I'm a citizen, I have a right to vote, and I'm going to sign this letter. And guess what? If you don't do what I ask you to do, we'll find somebody who'll do it. Now, by yourself, your signature alone doesn't mean a whole lot. But when you send a letter with 100 signatures, 200 signatures, 500 signatures, what a politician sees is 500 signatures times 100. He sees 500 signatures times 10. That's 50. That's, 5,000 votes, right? So that's what they see. That's what makes them move. I'm not mad at politicians for being politicians. I'm mad at common people for thinking their vote doesn't mean anything.
Right. I will say this, at the national level, it really does feel like the billionaires are buying the elections, because by and large they are. We get to vote with dollars and they have more dollars. However, at the local level, these things really matter. And the roots of Project 2025, designed by the Heritage Foundation and some of this current administration's biggest advisors and allies. And it's been over 50 years in the making for them to do. And they started at the local level. They wanted people to win school board seats, parks and recreation seats. They wanted their people and everything, and they put energy behind it. So that's what we're saying as FSIC, is that you can have an impact locally, absolutely. And that's what you're saying. And so I appreciate that you came to that conclusion and are
Right.
acting on it.
And it truly is a trickle up theory, right? So we got that tax bill. Kevin said we should present it. We presented it along with signatures. I had maybe 40 or 50 signatures on the letter we sent to our Congress people saying we want you to do we're behind this and we want you to sign on to it. And so someone signed, and it went to Washington. So we were
Now, which rep was that?
um, LaMonica MacGyver,
Okay, I want to make sure
New
her name's
Jersey's
out there.
10th district.
Okay.
She signed on. She was the second person to original signers on that bill. And we did it. New Jersey did it. New Jersey sent it, and New Jersey was instrumental in getting it to Washington, D.C. That's the reality. I went from being an angry truck company owner to, within 3 months, gathering a group of people, giving them an idea, showing them what's going on, getting them behind it, getting them to sign, and getting something in Washington in 3 months.
Yep. And it's still live. I mean, it takes an amazing amount of energy, time, and money to get a bill just to committee, to get it through legislative council, who actually writes the language of the bill. To get to there is a lot. And with your help, we've done it in this case.
Correct.
We're very realistic, but sometimes you have to introduce a notion, and then 10, 15 years later, it will happen. You have to keep fighting for that. And a tax cut for the middle class, if people are against that, we're going to hang it around their necks. We're going to make sure that they wear that they don't get away with it. Anyway, I get passionate about this, so sorry for stealing
No, you and me
time.
both. We're on the same page.
So I got one more question, I think. I have a lot more questions. Actually, two. What do you hope to accomplish, and what do you believe will happen in the future as a result of your good works? I know that you believe something will happen. It may take my lifetime, your lifetime. This is a lifetime battle. We understand that. What is it that what do you want to accomplish and that you'll see in the future and go, yeah, that was maybe not worth all the effort, but it was worth something.
No, I really think, and I'm already starting to see things. I think it doesn't take much, and I think it's a forever fight. It's not gonna be where I'd like us to be in my lifetime. I know that, but along the way, some things can happen, and some things are already happening. I had a meeting yesterday, and I had a Zoom call meeting, and I had on the meeting the Port Authority of New York, New Jersey. They have a program called LBE, Local Business Enterprise. It's an amazing program, right? Where people are held accountable that I discovered when I got invited to talk about it. I had I had a banker on from PNC Bank. He's an Indian guy, Robindra. I can't think of his last name. Rob, we call him. Rob is the branch manager of Madison Avenue, their flagship bank, and he's a community guy. Like he's a real community guy. He spends 1 or 2 days a week in the branch and the rest of the time in the community trying to help people. And he's helped a
Wow.
tremendous amount of people. And then also I had on there a Dr. Jeter, who I met on a panel Kevin had a couple of weeks ago. He's the head of diversity, equity, inclusion for the city of Jersey City. He's dynamic, he's incredible, he's reachable, he's helping people in a different way. He's a community guy, born and raised in Jersey City, in the streets of Jersey City, had a difficult life, put himself through school, got his education, got his bachelor, got his master's, got his doctorate, has this great job now at Jersey City. Has had 7 years he's been on, and he's a relatable, regular guy that's really trying to do things. So I had maybe 20 or 25 businesses join us on this call, meet these people, because what we understand is that there's two reasons for this. Listen, if you look at what's going on, there's the elements, outside elements that cause you to be where you are, and there's
Right.
also your own things that cause you to be where you are, right? Like Les Brown used to say, motivational speaker, wherever you find yourself at today, at some point in your past, you made an appointment to be here, right? So
Good.
it's a combination of the two. So what we have to do is look at on our side, what about this government contract? What about these numbers, 0.014%, 0.14%? What about that number that we play into it, right? So two things came to mind, two things that why are these people, why are these other people, why do they have our percentage? They have our percentage for two reasons: connections and
Yeah.
access to capital, right? Connections and access to capital. So one of the good things that's happened since this DEI and these designations came, there's people like Dr. Jeter. There's people in the Port Authority like me who are concerned about me, right? So I have to build that connection and lean on them to get me what I need. And it's their responsibility and their job, so they're anxious to do it. So that's what this meeting did. It pulled together the two things I think we need, and that is access, connections, and capital. And so out of that group of 20, 25 people, businesses, I'm almost sure somebody will move forward because of that meeting. And I have them all coming back together to talk about our experiences. When you go to Port Authority to sign up for the local business enterprise and you get involved, share every single story, every single thing that happens to you in that private with the rest of the group. So we know who there is really on our side, who's not, what to avoid, what to do, what not to do. We need to share this information with each other. So that's what we're doing. So I'm already seeing good things
Yeah.
happen. I'm
It's not getting out there. It's
it's
the
not it's
fact
not
that
information.
you, a trucking company person, not a lobbyist, not a community advocate, had to tell all these people about this disparity study. What does that tell you?
Listen, there's something, I don't mean to be negative or go negative. There's something called the African American Chamber of Commerce here in New Jersey African American Chamber of Commerce. Why am I doing these things?
Maybe we should contact them.
I have. That's a story for another day. I'm just saying this
All
is
right,
part
yeah,
of it's the part.
Martin, you know what you just told me?
What's that?
Is that we need to do this on a somewhat regular basis because I know that we touched on a lot of things, and
Yeah.
each one of those could be its own episode here on the video podcast. So would you be willing to come back and we
I'm
could
always
pick
available.
something and maybe just delve into that and
Sure.
share?
I'm always available for you and Kevin and FSIC, anything I can do.
Well, we appreciate that. I mean, we need you. We need more people like you, and you're out there. You just got to keep swinging, and eventually you connect. And I think that you've connected on a couple, so that's got to be now. It's up to us to get that out to as many people as we can, so they can see, yeah, there's some effect. You're not gonna put in a month worth of effort and then suddenly have a bill that gives you exactly what you want. People
No,
want a very easy solution, and that's all they're willing to do or able to do, because there's like 2/3 of the country's living paycheck to paycheck. They're fighting to survive. They're treading water, as you would say.
right.
And so we're trying to get them to understand we don't want 100% of your time for a full month or a weekend. We want 3% all the time. Hey, will you sign this letter? Hey, will you forward this email? Hey, what is your opinion on this? Hey, would you be part of a focus group? Those are things that don't take a stunning amount of time for the regular people or business owners. So
And
that's my piece. And, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day. You're a business owner and an advocate, and
try
that's two full-time jobs. So
for
I
sure.
commend you.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I'm going to close out here. Um, thank you so much to our audience for being here with us today. And if you're interested in learning more about FSIC and its initiatives, please go to our website at FSI, the word coalition.org. That's FSIcoalition.org. And I would like to thank all the FSIC network members for their efforts to promote economic empowerment and social justice. Thank you for listening today.
Thanks.